Welcome back to the dark stories of the US today. We have 6 parts filled with terrifying information. I hope you will watch the full video and support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing.
Part 1. Fire and Fear 178-01782 1780. The war was not over. Fighting grew more violent in South Carolina and Georgia. Instead of large battles, small and sudden attacks became common. Villages were burned at night. Food was stolen. People disappeared without a trace. There was no clear line between friend and enemy. Loyalists and patriots lived side by side. One day a neighbor, the next day a threat. Trust slowly vanished. Fear spread faster than fire. In the middle of this chaos, Nathaniel Greene took command in the South. His army was weak, hungry, and exhausted. Many soldiers had no shoes. Supplies were low. Instead of direct battles, he used a different strategy: small attacks, quick movements, and constant pressure. It was not about winning fast. It was about survival. 1781 brought a turning point. George Washington, along with French allies, moved against the British Army. The final blow came at the Battle of Yorktown. British forces were surrounded. Escape was impossible. This marked the collapse of British control in the colonies. Victory, however, did not bring peace. Cities were damaged. Farms were destroyed. Trade had stopped. Families had lost everything. Soldiers returned home, but there was nothing waiting for them. No money, no stable work, no security. Paper currency had lost its value. Even if someone had money, it could not buy food. Farmers refused to sell goods. Markets slowed down. Hunger and frustration grew. By 1782, the war was ending, but uncertainty remained. People began to realize that independence was only the beginning. The real struggle was just starting. Part 2. A Fragile Peace 1783-1785 1783. The war officially ended with the Treaty of Paris. Britain recognized American independence. On paper, it was a victory. In reality, the new nation was weak and unstable. Under the Articles of Confederation, the central government had little power. It could not collect taxes, control trade, or enforce laws properly. Each state acted on its own. Unity existed in name, not in action. Soldiers who had fought for years returned home unpaid. Many were given promises instead of money. Some tried to farm again, but their land was damaged. Others searched for work in towns that had no jobs to offer. Debt became a common burden. In Massachusetts, farmers struggled the most. Heavy taxes were demanded in hard currency, not in worthless paper money. Courts began taking land from those who could not pay. Families that had survived the war now faced losing everything in peace. Trade problems made things worse. American goods were blocked from British markets, and local industries were too weak to compete. Ports were quiet. Ships stayed docked. The economy slowed down across the states. Without a strong central system, disputes between states increased. Borders, trade rules, and taxes created constant tension. There was no clear authority to settle these conflicts. Meanwhile, leaders like George Washington watched with concern. The independence they had fought for was at risk. The country was free, but not stable. By 1785, it became clear that something was wrong. The system in place could not support a growing nation. People had expected peace and progress, but instead they found confusion, debt and uncertainty. The war had ended, but the struggle to build a nation had just begun. Part 3. Rebellion Rising, 1786 to 1787. 1786. Economic pressure reached its breaking point. In Massachusetts, farmers were drowning in debt. Taxes remained high, and payments had to be made in hard currency. Many had none. Courts ordered land seizures. Homes were taken. Families were pushed out. Anger began to organize. Former soldiers who once fought for independence now turned against their own system. One of them was Daniel Shays. He became a central figure in what would soon be known as Shays' Rebellion. The goal was simple: stop the courts. If courts could not sit, land could not be taken. Groups of armed farmers marched toward courthouses, blocking judges from entering. There was no large army, but the movement grew quickly. Fear spread among leaders and wealthy citizens. The national government could not respond effectively. Under the Articles of Confederation, it had no power to raise a strong army or act decisively. Each state was left to handle its own crisis. By early 1787, the situation escalated. Rebels moved toward a federal arsenal in Springfield. They needed weapons. The state militia confronted them. Shots were fired. The rebellion was forcefully stopped, but the message was clear: control was slipping. This event shocked the nation. Leaders realized that independence without order could lead to collapse. If a group of farmers could rise so easily, what would stop larger conflicts in the future? Men like George Washington saw this as a warning. The current system was too weak. Change was no longer optional. 1787 became a turning point. Representatives from different states gathered in Philadelphia. Their goal was not just to fix problems, but to rebuild the foundation of the nation itself. The rebellion had ended, but it had exposed a deeper crisis. Part 4. A new system, 1787-1788. 1787. Leaders gathered in Philadelphia to fix a failing system. What began as a meeting to revise the Articles of Confederation quickly turned into something bigger. The goal shifted from repair to replacement. Behind closed doors, debates were intense. Large states wanted more power. Small states demanded equal voice. Trust was limited, but the need for stability was greater. Slowly, a new structure began to take shape. The result was the United States Constitution. It created a stronger central government with 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Power would be divided, not concentrated. Checks and balances were designed to prevent control from falling into one hand. At the center of attention was George Washington, who presided over the convention. His presence gave the process credibility. Many believed that without him, unity would fail, but agreement inside the hall did not mean acceptance outside. The new constitution needed approval from the states. This started a nationwide debate. Supporters, known as Federalists, argued that a strong government was necessary for survival. Opponents feared that too much power would lead back to tyranny. Pamphlets, speeches, and arguments spread across the states. In key states like New York and Virginia, the decision was uncertain. Every vote mattered. The future of the nation depended on it. By 1788, enough states approved the Constitution. It was officially accepted. A new system replaced the old one. The weak structure that failed after the war was gone. The country finally had a stronger foundation, but questions still remained. How would this new system work in reality?
Part 5. A Nation Begins, 1789, 1790. 1789, the new system came to life. Under the United States Constitution, the country prepared for its first real government. All eyes turned to leadership. George Washington was unanimously chosen as the first president. His reputation made him the only figure trusted by all sides. In New York City, he took the oath of office, marking the true beginning of the United States as a functioning nation. The challenges were immediate. The government had to build everything from the ground up: laws, courts, financial systems. There was no clear roadmap. Every decision would shape the future. One of the biggest problems was debt. War had left the country financially broken. To address this, Alexander Hamilton proposed a bold plan. The federal government would take responsibility for state debts and create a national financial system. This included the idea of a national bank. Not everyone agreed. Leaders like Thomas Jefferson feared that too much central power could become dangerous. This disagreement created the first political divisions in the new nation. Despite conflict, progress continued. Government departments were formed. Laws were introduced. Stability slowly replaced chaos. In 1790, the capital moved to Philadelphia as plans for a permanent capital began. The country was still fragile, but it was no longer collapsing. The years of war, fear, rebellion, and uncertainty had led to this moment: a working system, a recognized leadership, and a direction forward. From 1780 to 1790, the journey was not just about winning independence. It was about surviving the aftermath and building something that could last. The United States was no longer just an idea. It had finally begun. Part 6, Power Takes Shape, 1790-1791. 1790. The new government was no longer an idea. It was active, tested, and under pressure. The promises of the United States Constitution now had to work in reality. Every decision carried risk. The biggest issue was money. The nation was deeply in debt after the war. States owed large amounts, and trust in the system was still fragile. Alexander Hamilton pushed a bold plan. He wanted the federal government to take control of all state debts and build a single financial structure. His goal was clear: create stability and gain international trust. This idea created immediate tension. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison opposed parts of the plan. They feared that too much financial power in one central authority could lead to control similar to what they had fought against. The debate was not just about money, it was about the future balance of power. After intense negotiation, a compromise was reached. The government would assume state debts, and in return, the national capital would be moved to a new location in the South. This agreement led to the creation of what would become Washington, D.C. It was a political trade, but it kept the system moving forward. In 1791, another major step was taken. The government approved the creation of the first Bank of the United States. This institution would manage money, stabilize the economy, and support growth. Supporters saw it as necessary. Critics saw it as dangerous. At the same time, a promise made during the Constitution debates was finally fulfilled. Many states had demanded protection of individual rights before fully trusting the new system. To answer this, 10 amendments were added to the Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights. These guaranteed basic freedoms such as speech, religion, and justice. Meanwhile, George Washington tried to stay neutral between growing political sides. But division was becoming clear. One group supported strong federal control. Another pushed for more state power. These differences quietly formed the first political parties. By the end of 1791, the nation was more stable than before, but also more divided. Systems were working, but disagreements were growing. The foundation was strong, yet the direction was uncertain. The United States had survived war and chaos. Now it faced something new, internal conflict within its own leadership.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I put a lot of effort into making these videos. please consider subscribing to support me. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment for the next part.